again, let me welcome you to Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams. Chris King is over here. There he is. Okay. And Chris, let's talk about. Last night let's be honest. The Rams did a job on the Cardinals, and you're in trouble when Odell Beckham can throw the ball better than Murray can. So
yeah. I have to admit I was wrong on that one. I thought Arizona was going to play a lot better football than they did. Kyler Murray, I'm going to sum it up quite simply, looked indecisive. He couldn't decide if there was pressure. He couldn't decide if he was going to run or if he was going to throw the ball. He was late. By the time he made a decision, it was a poor decision. The back-breaking one, of course, in the first half there, where after Chase Edmonds picked up the rush on that third down from inside their own 5-yard line, Murray didn't decide whether he was going to run. He wouldn't throw the ball. Then just before he gets sacked, he tries to flip the ball out there, and it becomes the shortest pick six in NFL playoff history because it looked like he was trying to throw a piece of paper into a trash can. And it was just horrible. I mean, he looked completely indecisive. And we talked about this in our house yesterday. The difference between Kyler Murray yesterday and Josh Allen on Saturday is if Josh Allen looks and there's not somebody to throw the ball to, he will run. He will beat you with his legs. Murray would dance out there, he'd roll out, and then he would look indecisive. He'd stutter step, and then by the time he decided if he was going to run or throw the ball, somebody was already on it. You can't beat indecisive.
The other thing, though, is Murray doesn't have the arm that Josh has. So
no, he does have the legs.
No, you're right. But what I'm saying is, one of the things you can buy time and throw. Okay, his arm is not strong enough to buy time and throw. If he's going to run, he better run now.
Right.
He's got that Lamar Jackson thing, which is, Lamar will go through progression 1, progression 2. He will not see progression 3 because he'll be gone by that time. And
right.
Like it or not, it's been successful for him. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Am I going to run or am I going to pass? And yesterday, I will say that Raheem Morris really drew up a pretty good defensive game plan because they had them flummoxed.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they took away Zach Ertz. And Arizona, I don't know what Kingsbury was thinking. They didn't commit to the run either. And when they had success against the Rams back in October, they put the ball down the Rams' throats. James Conner barely touched the ball yesterday.
Right. That makes it a problem. And, if we go to Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers game, Kyle loves to throw the ball, but he just stuck to the run in that game. And at the end of the day, it may not have looked good, but, they won the game. And as we said yesterday, Jimmy G only threw the ball 3 times in the second half. Last night, that Murray in Arizona was down 21 points before they knew what hit him.
Yeah, and just when it looked like they were moving the ball towards the end of the half, he threw that horrible-looking screen pass that was too high. It was in the wrong side of Connor, and he just volleyball set it up in the air, so it was an easy interception for the defensive lineman. And we looked around and we said, well, that's pretty much the game. And, everybody turned it off, watch something else.
It's time to turn on Netflix, folks. Here we go. So pretty wild. And, but, on the good side, we had some good hockey games that turned out and some basketball games that turned out last night.
That's true. We talked about the Penguins yesterday. We talked about the Arizona Cactus, playing a team that's a doormat in the Montreal Canadiens. We said that this is probably the only time that we would favor Arizona. And, they didn't let us down. So, hey, they're 1-0 when we pick the Coyotes. We might just retire with that mark because, let's face it, the Canadiens are terrible, and we'll talk about them again later in this show, Jim, because guess what? We're on the road again, and it's not going to look pretty for them tonight either.
Yeah, it's not a good road picture. Tell you what, before we get to that, and we are going directly to some college basketball in just a minute, but first we have to talk about our buddies. And, of course, I'm talking about our buddies at Caesars Sportsbook. Now, Caesars Sportsbook has a great deal for winners and whiners, and here's what the deal is. You make your first deposit and bet using Caesars Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match your first wager all the way up to $1,000. That's right. You have to use the promo code, though, Video Winners, to get that deal. Now, again, Caesar Sportsbook, because they like us at Winners and Whiners, they have this deal. You make your first deposit and bet using the Caesar Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match that first wager all the way up to $1,000. Now, it gets even better if you just happen to be in a New York state of mind. As we all know, just last week, New York got their legalized betting in going, and so they now have what they call an Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 bonus cash on sign up, plus they'll match that first deposit all the way up to $3,000, but you have to use the promo code WINNERSNEW. Okay, so Empire State Royal Welcome, you get $300 in bonus cash on sign up, plus they're going to match your first deposit all the way up to $3,000 as long as you use the promo code WINNERSNEW. All right, so you got something for those in New York, you got something for those of you outside of New York. All of the information is in the show box below. And as we always tell you, you have to be over 21 to make the bet. And also, always, what we want you to do here at Winners and Whiners and Caesars is bet responsibly. Okay, all right, so here we go. We're going to the hardwood, and this time we're going to see the Houston Cougars and the South Florida Bulls, who are suddenly becoming the fade team for us, which is fair enough. You know,
I know for those of you that don't know it, Jim's always disappointed when we see South Florida up here since it's his alma mater, but the fact is they're not a very good basketball team. Brian Gregory had no offense to speak of with that team. Houston, I know they're favored by 18, but they're playing at the Fertitta Center, where it seems like the Cougars have won seemingly 372 games in a row. They're 15-2 overall on the year. South Florida 6-10. Houston's 9-0 at home this season. South Florida 1-3 on the road. They are coming off, as Jim will point out, an impressive 75-51 win over UCF over the weekend. Johnny Dawkins and the Knights probably hanging their heads in shame after getting run off the floor in that contest. The problem with South Florida, like we said, they don't score points. They are 354th of the 358 teams in Division I, averaging 58.9 points a game. They're 351st in field goal percentage at 38.4%. They're 351st in threes per game at 4.4. And just in case you were wondering, they're dead last when it comes to actually making three-point shots, 24.6%. I mean, you're talking about, we always used to make fun back when I was growing up about Chris Dudley and the way he shot free throws in the NBA, because he was about a 45% shooter. The Bulls are making less than 25% from beyond the arc. Houston has won 10 in a row between these teams. They beat South Florida 83-66 in the first meeting just a couple weeks ago down there in South Florida. The Bulls are 4-12 against the spread in their last 16 after an ATS win. They don't deal with success well. They're 0-4 in the last four after a straight-up win by at least 20 points. Houston's 10-3-1 against the spread in their last 14 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. They're 6-2 in the last 8 against teams with a losing straight-up record. When we talk about how Houston's won 10 straight meetings, well, they've been the favorite all 10 times, and they've covered in 9 of those 10 meetings. You have to think that the Cougars, especially playing at home, should take care of the Bulls in this one. Again, much to the chagrin of my co-host Jim Williams, who is disgusted with the way his alma mater has played basketball this season.
Well, you know, you can't win them all. Winning 3 or 4 would be good. But you're definitely, it's tough to, I'll tell you what, it's tough to play in Houston and win. It's always been a great place to for the home team, for the Cougars, all the way back to the days of Phi Slamma Jamma. So it's a wonderful building and it's got a big history. It's not quite a Pauley Pavilion kind of history, but certainly Houston has a great history, and we'll just go and have our picture taken there tonight and get on the plane and go home.
So, a yearbook photo game.
Yeah, a yearbook game. So let's get away from this one quickly. It's very depressing to me already. Hey, there's Ricky Pitino.
The Metro Atlantic Conference, just to make Jim feel better.
Thank you.
It's the Iona Gales, coached by Rick Pitino, going to take on King Rice and the Monmouth Hawks. great name, basketball King Rice. He's the coach there at Monmouth. The Gales 14-3 this season. Their Hawks are 10-5. Iona's only played 3 road games. Think about that, Jim. They played 3 road games and 7 games on a neutral floor.
Wow.
They're 2-1 on the road. Monmouth 3-1 at home. But Monmouth, they come in with 3 straight losses. They were clobbered 84-48 by Marist. Nobody considers the Red Foxes as an offensive powerhouse by any stretch of the imagination, but they hung 84 on Monmouth the other day. Meanwhile, Iona's won 3 in a row, and 8 of their last 9. They whipped Niagara, the alma mater of former NBA Hall of Famer Calvin Murphy, and Dr. Jack Ramsey, 78-55 on Sunday. Iona is 77th in scoring offense, averaging 76.8 points a game, and they take the second most free throws per game in the country, Jim, 24.8 times to get to the line of game, which is probably good because, volume can overcome poor shooting. They're just 243rd in free throw percentage, 69% as a team. You have to think Patino will drill that into his team as the season wears on, because once you get closer to conference tournament time and then, March Madness and everything else, you want to be able to knock those free throws down. The Gales 4-1 in their last 5 on Tuesday. They are 12-3-1 in their last 16 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage better than 600. Monmouth 3-11-1 against the spread in their last 15 after losing by at least 20 points. And they're 0-7 in their last 7 after an ATS loss. I'm surprised the line is only 2. I guess they're factoring in that Iona's only played 3 games on the road this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, when you're coming in off a 36-point loss to a Marist team that nobody considered being overly impressive on the offensive end, and just to take a quick look, Marist is an 8-8 team this season, and they hadn't scored 84 points. I tell you that they scored 84 points once this season going in. That was an overtime game against Boston University back on December 18th. So you're not talking about a team that's going to rack up a ton of points. John Dunn, that's not their strategy. But, I mean, come on. Monmouth gave up 84 to Marist, and now you've got to face an Iona team that's very good. They're very disciplined. And you know that Patino can get a ton of production out of his players. You have to think that Iona can go on the road here, and it's not that far of a trip from New Rochelle to New Jersey. You have to think that the Gales can pick up the victory, their 15th of the season, as they take down Monmouth on the road.
No question about it. I mean, Rick Pitino's got that team playing well, and this is just one of those business trips, right? You go, you take care of your home business, and away you go. So.
Right. I mean, Monmouth, they started off well. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from them. The 3 straight losses takes the bloom off that 10-2 start really quick when you're now all of a sudden 10-5.
It's amazing, that's for sure. But the good news is, if you're a Gales fan, that you got something to cheer about, because Rick's put together a good team. But looking to go 15-3 starting tonight. So there we go. All right, moving on, my friend. Where are we going next?
Well, now we get to go to the ice, because there wasn't a ton of exciting games tonight. But we've got some other basketball games we can touch on later, and if anybody has any questions, we can get back to those as well.
Sure.
But on the ice, we're going to go. I know that everybody saw this yesterday. We talked about the Islanders beating the Flyers, but hey, that game was at the UBS Arena. This one's at the Wells Fargo Center. So it's completely different. Not really. We told you to take the Islanders last night at home. They beat the Flyers 4-1 in a game that probably wasn't really that close. The Flyers did switch it up on us. We thought it was going to be Carter Hart. And last night, instead they went with Martin Jones. So you'll see Hart tonight. The Flyers 6-8-3 on the road. The Islanders 6-7-3 at home. I should have switched the typing on there. I just forgot. The Islanders now 5-1-1 in their last 7. The Flyers 0-6-2 their last 8. Carter Hart 7-12-4, 294 goals against, 911 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Is going to start against Semyon Varlamov, who's barely played this year. He's 2-6-1 with a 259 goals against and a 917 save percentage for the Islanders. The Flyers 3-14 now in their last 17 after being held to 2 goals or less. They've lost 7 of their last 8 games against Metropolitan Division foes. The Islanders have covered, or I should say they've won their last 6 games as a favorite. And they've owned the Flyers in this series. They've now won 11 of the last 12 meetings. Philadelphia, they've gone downhill in a hurry, and I don't see things turning around just because they suddenly got to go back home for this game. The Islanders are playing well of late. They can get back to 500 with a win here after that horrible start to the year with that seemingly never-ending 845 game road trip they had. Look for the Islanders to get the win here and even their record. It's going to be a good night for Barry Trotz.
Absolutely. And, Varlamov, it's funny. When he was at the Capitals, he had some pretty good games. And there's a lot of talk that, there were 5 or 6 teams that were, constantly making phone calls to try to get him. And now he ends up in a situation with the Flyers and the Islanders. And, I think Barry just brought him over and said, you know what, let's give him a shot. And some of them stepped out, some of them not so much.
He's been supplanted by Sorokin, who's played really well for the Islanders.
Absolutely.
But, it's good to have a guy that has experience of being a number one goaltender as your backup because if something where Sorokin goes down, Varlamov can hold down the fort. It's not like Buffalo where, their top 4 goaltenders are injured. You're down to, Aaron Dell and Michael Hauser.
Well, it's funny because we talk about Brendan Holtby from time to time. It was Varlamov and Holtby who really were, were there for their Stanley Cup run. And so both of them have extensive playoff experience as well as, experience during the regular season. So there you go. All right. From the island, we go
to the Music City. Bruce Boudreau and the Canucks are on the road. They're a slight underdog at Nashville. Canucks 17-18-3 this year. Nashville 24-13-3. But the Predators have lost 3 in a row. They fell 5-3 to the Blues on Monday night in a game where we told you that they might be looking ahead to this game and getting out of St. Louis, and it ended up costing them. Vancouver, they're 9-3-1. Jim, under Bruce Boudreau, your buddy there, turned the team around after that slow start under Travis Green. It's supposed to be Thatcher Demko, 16-14-1 with a 267 goals against, a 915 save percentage, 1 shutout. With UC Saros starting last night for the Blues, it's supposed to be Dave Rittich, big game Dave, 3-1-1 with a 304 goals against and an 884 save percentage. My question is, if he's big game Dave, how come he's only played 5 games this year and they keep playing Saros every night?
They save him for just big games, I guess.
I guess so. Nashville's 12th in goals against at 2.78. Vancouver 14th at 2.84. Vancouver, they struggled to light the lamp. They're 27th in the league in goals per game at 2.5. But under Boudreau's leadership, they've gone up to 2.92 goals per game in that 13-game stretch. So they are making improvements. Vancouver is 4-0 in their last 4 in the third game of a 3-game and 4-night situation. They're 5-1 in their last 6 against the Western Conference. They're 8-2 in their last 10 on one day rest, and they're 6-2 in their last 8 following a win. I mean, you look at Nashville; they were playing good hockey. Then they got stymied by Buffalo on Thursday night. They lost 4-1 at home. They lost 4-3 in overtime to Boston. Then they lost last night to St. Louis. It's going to be the third game in 4 nights for Nashville as well, in their third different city, going from Boston to St. Louis down to Nashville. I like the Canucks here. They had Monday off. They had a chance to recoup. You have to think, Boudreau, he's done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Vancouver's still on the outside of the playoff picture, but that the race for those wild card spots in the West is a giant cluster. They're not that far out if they can keep playing decent hockey and watch teams like Edmonton continue to crater down the standings. They can leapfrog some teams and get into consideration.
Well, let's see if Spanky can keep working his magic as the Canucks are, doing quite well under him. So go ahead.
We were just talking about goaltenders. Why is Yaroslav Halak not getting much playing time up in Vancouver? Are they that entrenched with Demko that Halak, who has obviously a ton of playoff experience, putting him out of the crease? I
don't know. I remember when he was with Montreal, he stood on his head in a couple of playoff series. I mean, you couldn't get a puck past the guy. And then they decided to keep Carey Price and let Halak go. And he's been with 3 or 4 teams now.
Yeah, he had a lot of success at Boston with Tuukka Rask, who now is back too. Right. But I just think it's interesting. I mean, like you said, he's had success. He's got a ton of experience. Why not play him?
I don't know.
I mean, worst case scenario, you play him and you use it, and he plays well, and you use him as a trade chip for something you need.
Right. Because the trade deadline's coming up here in the not too distant future for both the NBA and for hockey.
Right. So you don't just let him sit on the bench and collect dust.
No. Put him out
there.
And of course,
John wanted to point out, Jim, that it's IUPUI Day, and in case you don't know who IUPUI is playing tonight, well, let's just say Bill Bender would be a fan because they're on the road.
I know who they're playing. Yes, it's on the Big Ten Network, by the way.
Now used to the arena where they're an underdog by about 758 points as they take on the number 19 Ohio State Buckeyes. It's
on the Big Ten Network. So if you get the Big Ten Network where you are, James, buddy, you'll be in heaven. You'll be able to watch the game. So
just to take a quick look at that site, because I actually wrote about this game from Whiners and Whiners. I just want to see if the line has shifted since I wrote about it yesterday. I think it was 32 and a half. It is now currently Ohio State by 33. I know that Ohio State's not as good defensively as they normally are. I mean, they're 211th in scoring defense. But we're talking about IUPUI, who have magically moved up to second worst in scoring offense now at 52.2 points per game. John, I would imagine that this one probably should go over 128. I don't know. I'd like to think Ohio State can get somewhere up into the high 70s, the low 80s at least. Even if they're stuck playing at a slow tempo, I mean, they average 74.6 points a game. But I can see IUPUI getting some garbage points and edging this one over. I mean, obviously, it's always tough to gauge when you're a team like the Jaguars going on the road as a small team that's struggling going into an environment like the Big Ten and playing in a loud arena like Columbus. As Jim would tell you, this is pretty much the epitome of a yearbook game where you go, you get your picture taken and see the logo, and then get stopped and leave. But hey, I mean, the Jaguars have gone over the total 4 times now this season. Figure that one out. Fortunately, the one that they didn't was that Chicago State game we talked about before. I mean, the Jaguars are coming in on 3 straight overs. Think about that. They went over in their 2-point loss to Illinois Chicago. Mm-hmm. They went over in their loss to Green Bay, and they went over in their loss to Milwaukee. It was an offensive bonanza where they combined for 143 points against a number of 123.5 point total. So, I mean, sure, they only scored 54 of those 143 points, but that doesn't matter. It still went over the mark.
That's right. It still counts. Well,
and you're dealing with an Ohio State team that can hang some big point totals when they're motivated. And coming off, a loss at Wisconsin and then a narrow win over Penn State, you have to think that Chris Holtman is going to get his boys fired up for that one.
Yeah,
push over.
This is one of those games where an Ohio State wants style points. So, and if you're at number 19 and you've had a couple of shaky outings, you're definitely going to want to hang some points on somebody here. And
yeah, I think that one will go over. I mean, John's probably right. 33 points might be a little high because, he might call off the dog after they get to, 85 points or whatever. Mm-hmm. I personally hate lines like that because, obviously you've got a team that's 1-14.
Right.
But Horizon going to face a Big Ten team that's ranked. Mm-hmm. I always tend to stay away from lines that are like that because, it's always enticing to pick a number that's that big and then you watch the team get waxed by 50 and you're like, well, what the hell did I just do?
Just gave it away. Well, let's go onward and upward. Where are we headed now, big guy?
Now we're going to head to the NBA.
The association.
And guess what? We've got you covered with the NBA tonight. You know why? Because there's only 2 games. So we got
a blanket. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got blanket coverage on this. Look for Minnesota -3 on the road against the Knicks. The Timberwolves 21-22. The Knicks are 22-22. The Knicks are playing the second game of back-to-back here. They lost 97-87 to Charlotte Monday afternoon. Minnesota was off yesterday. They whipped Golden State 119-99 at home on Sunday. Minnesota 9-12 on the road. The Knicks just 11-12 at Madison Square Garden, which is a strange concept. Minnesota's 11th in the league in scoring offense at 110.1 points per game. The Knicks are 27th at 104.2. The Knicks also won't have Derrick Rose. He's still out for about another month or so with an ankle injury. He had surgery on it. Cam Reddish, who they acquired from the Hawks, quickly, that derailed. He's out with an ankle injury. Nerlens Noel out with a knee. Kemba Walker is questionable tonight. Minnesota is healthy for the most part. According to the injury report, they list their only missing pieces are Leandro Bolmero, who's down in the G League and nobody cares about. Jalen Noel's probable with an ankle sprain. Jordan Mclaughlin is out with health and safety protocols. But that means they've got Anthony Edwards, they've got Karl Anthony Towns, they've got D'Angelo Russell, they've got Naz Reid, they've got all those guys that they rely on offensively. The Knicks don't have anybody offensively other than Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett. Minnesota 7-1-1 against the spread in their last 9 on the road against teams with a losing home record. They're 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 as a road favorite. The Knicks are 3-8 in their last 11 as an underdog, and they're 2-5 in their last 7 as a home underdog. I look for Minnesota to take advantage of the fact that the Knicks are playing the second game of back-to-back, and they will get the win here to get to 500 on the season. And really, when's the last time you've talked about Minnesota being a 500 team and in a playoff picture as we're here in mid-January? I mean, they haven't been in the postseason in, what's it been, Jim, an eternity?
It seems that way, yeah. And look, if you look at this, both of them, I mean, they're the they're the absolute definition of mediocrity.
True. Minnesota made the playoffs in 2017-18, but that's the only time they've been in the postseason since 2003-2004.
Well, they weren't from their standpoint. I mean, come on, the Timberwolves. It's hard not to make the playoffs. So they're in the NBA and the NHL. So the fact that they've made it, what would you say, 3 times in the last?
No, once.
Oh, once in the last decade. Okay.
Once since 2003.
Jeez. Okay.
So you're talking about, let's see.
That's a drought.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Once in 17 seasons.
Wait. You know what?
And the one time they went, they lost in the first round.
I think it's time to go out to the Bay Area where they actually know how to play basketball.
Right. It's the other exciting game on the docket. And good luck for you if you think this is exciting. That's right. It's the Golden State Warriors at home. Favored by 3 billion points against the Detroit Pistons. That's right. The Detroit Pistons. The Pistons are 10-32. The Warriors are 31-12. Golden State is 18-3 at home this year. Detroit 3-18 as the visiting team. In case you were wondering if Detroit could score, they can't. They're 29th in scoring offense at 101.4 points a game. Coincidentally, the only team they're better than Oklahoma City. They're last in field goal percentage at 41.7%. They are 29th in three-point defense, or three-point shooting, I should say, not defense, 31.4%. They're facing a Golden State team that leads the league in scoring defense at 102 points a game. They lead the league in field goal percentage defense at 42.9, and they're 4th in three-point defense, holding opposing teams to 32.9% from beyond the arc. The Pistons 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 on the road, 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 on Tuesday, 0-4 in their last 4 against the spread after scoring at least 100 points. Golden State 14-4 against the spread in their last 18 after a straight-up defeat. They are 8-3-1 in their last 12 at home against teams with a road winning percentage less than 400. The injury report: Luka Garza's down in the G League for the Pistons. Jeremy Grant's still out with that thumb. He'll be out until late January. Frank Jackson out as he's coming out of the protocols. Isaiah Livers out with a sore foot. Kelly Olynyk expected to miss the game. They originally had him as questionable, but I think he'll miss one more game as he gets back up to speed. He hasn't played since November 10th with a knee sprain and then going into protocols. Golden State, the one big missing piece, Draymond Green, He's out with a back injury. He'll be out probably until mid-February. Gary Payton is questionable with back spasms, and James Wiseman out with the knee that's caught the whole season. Murray was listed originally. It looks like they pulled him off the injury list. He missed Sunday's game with a hand injury. They probably wouldn't need him against Detroit, given how badly the Pistons have played. But if he's on the floor, it's always nice to see him put up 20, 25 points and help the Warriors roll to their 19th win of the year at the Chase Center as they take care of the lowly Pistons.
There you go. Well, before we get to our parlays of the days, let's go back and chat one more time about our buddies at Caesars Sportsbook. Now, what you need to know is this, and that is that the folks at Caesars really enjoy those of us here over at Winners and Whiners, and it's a mutual situation. We like them too. So they're doing a deal for people who are Winners and Whiners fans, all right? And here it is. Now, you make your first deposit and bet using the Caesars Sportsbook app or online, and they're going to match your first wager and deposit up to $1,000. Now, you have to use the promo code, and it's scrolling by there, Video Winners, okay, to get that deal. So if you're a fan of Caesars Sportsbook, as we are, then you're going to want to take the opportunity to use their Caesars Sportsbook app or their online service, and they're going to match that first wager once you book it in there at anything up to $1,000. Now, if you happen to be in New York, well, they got an even better deal for those of you in New York because we just started in New York, right? So the deal there is what's called the Empire State Royal Welcome. You get $300 in bonus cash on sign up, plus they're going to match your first deposit up to $3,000, but you have to use a promo code Winners New, okay? So all the information on both of those opportunities to get out there and to work with our friends at Caesars Sportsbook are in the show box below. And as we always say, first of all, you must be over 21 years of age, or 21 years of age, I should say, to participate, and always, always bet responsibly. Okay, so with that in the books, no pun intended, we're going to move to Two for the Money. And here we go with Two for the Money. What's going on, Chris?
Well, as much as you don't want to see it, Jim, we'll just point out the top line and say that, we already saw Houston beat South Florida by 17 in South Florida. They're playing at home here. They're unbeaten at home. There's no reason why they should have any trouble covering the line here in Houston. That's all we need to say about that one, just to save Jim things.
I appreciate that. The less said, the better. Yeah.
The Islanders over the Flyers. This one's on the road. We talked about it yesterday. We said the Islanders would beat the Flyers at home on the island. They did. They took a 4-1 win. I don't expect a whole lot different here. Sure, the goaltenders changed, but you know what? The goaltenders changed. The venue changed. The result stays the same. The Islanders prevail. Get back 500 on the season as they hand Philadelphia yet another defeat, dropping the Flyers to 0-7-2 in their last 9. We talked about Iona, Rick Pitino's team, 14-3 on the year. They're facing Monmouth, a team that's lost 3 in a row, coming off a 36-point loss to Marist. The Gales, they're a very good team. They're a very disciplined team, and they're a veteran team. They should have no problem taking care of the Hawks. Tampa Bay, it's a bit of a prohibitive number there. There's some uglier numbers out there, though. And the Kings are coming off a 6-2 the San Jose Sharks yesterday, so this will be the second game of back-to-back for them. Tampa Bay has played well of late. They're battling with the Panthers atop the Atlantic Division. Look for the Lightning to go out west and come up with the victory in the City of Angels at the Crypto.com.dome stadium thing, and get the victory on the road. Another big game for Andre Vasilevsky.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. He's been money. There's no question about it. All right, so we got 2 for the money. Let's go 4 for the show.
Yeah, like we said, we got Minnesota -3 over the Knicks. The Knicks, by the second game of back-to-back, they did nothing offensively yesterday against the Think about this, Jim. They scored 84 points or 87 points, I should say, against a Charlotte team that is second worst in the league in scoring defense, giving up over 114 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not damning about how bad your offensive unit is, I don't know what is.
What to tell you, folks.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Tom Thibodeau's a defensive-minded coach, but come on, 87 points against a team that gives up 110 points like kids or like parents giving out candy on Halloween. It's just horrible.
Yep.
Moving on, Wisconsin -3. This game's in Evanston against Northwestern. I know Northwestern upset Michigan State over the weekend, but let's face it, Wisconsin's a pretty good basketball team too. Johnny Davis has put up some big numbers in the Big Ten. He's averaging over 22 points a game for the Badgers. Brad Davison, the 73-year-old, 60-year senior, whatever he is, stabilizing force in the backcourt. Northwestern, they were fortunate against Michigan State. I don't think their fortune carries over here. I look for Wisconsin to cover there. The Capitals, Jim, up in your backyard there, they'll be playing Capital One Arena over the Winnipeg Jets. You know as well as anyone how well Washington plays at home. Those of you who don't, they're 10-5-5, but Winnipeg 7-6-4 on the road. Should be Connor Hellebuyck in that for Winnipeg. I'm guessing that it's going to be. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be Ilya Samsonov between the pipes for Washington.
Right.
I'm just not sold on Winnipeg on the road. I know they've played a little better under Dave Lowry after Paul Maurice stepped down, but I still like Washington there. It's tough to match firepower with the Capitals. And finally, Fresno State, they're 8-0 at home this season at the Save Mart Arena. They're going to take on a Utah State team. Ryan Odom, he's trying to do the best he can over there after leaving UMBC for the Utah State job after Craig Smith, who we talked about yesterday. I said it yesterday, I'm going to say it again today. Do you think Craig Smith regrets leaving Utah State to go to Utah? The Utes now 0-6 in the Pac-12 as they fell yesterday at Arizona State. I like Fresno State -2.5 at home over the Aggies. It's not the Utah State team that you've seen in the tournament the last couple of years. There's no Neemias Queta. There's no Sam Merrill. They've got Justin Bean, but he needs more support from other guys in order to help carry the Aggies where they've been the last couple of seasons.
Absolutely. All right. So we've gone 2 for the money. We've gone 4 for the show. And now it's the fun time, folks. This is where you get to really mix and match. And there's going to be some really fun stuff here. So pick a couple, pick 3, pick 4, whatever you want. Chris, lead us on, my friend, to what we have as our shot in the dark. Plenty of opportunities here.
Yeah, we threw in some of the bigger conference games here. There's a battle of ranked foes. Texas Tech favored by 8 at home against Iowa State. These two teams met a couple weeks ago, and Iowa State scratched out a 51-47 win at the James Hilton Coliseum in a game that set basketball back about 40 years. Both these teams are very good defensively, but the Red Raiders, they're excellent at home. They're unbeaten at the United Supermarkets Arena there in Lubbock. They beat Baylor last week. They beat Oklahoma State. You have to think they can take care of business against an Iowa State team that really hasn't proven themselves on the road this season. Then we've got UConn. They're at home, favored by a couple touchdowns over Butler. Let's face it, Butler's not a very good basketball team. Lavelle Jordan, I know he's trying to get the team to play to his style, but they don't really have the personnel to do anything there. They're coming off a 40-point loss to Villanova on Sunday on the road. That doesn't bode well when now you have to go up to Storrs, Connecticut there and deal with a UConn team that's a dangerous one, to say the least. UConn 11-4 on the year. They're coming off a win over St. John's last Wednesday. Interestingly enough, Jim, these two teams will meet again on Thursday.
Wow.
In Butler. So they're only getting that out of the way early.
I guess the home and homes. Hey,
Yeah,
there's somebody. I think this is a rare North Carolina Tar Heel sighting here.
Yeah, Hubert Davis and the boys, they go on the road to face Miami. I know that the Hurricanes have put together a pretty record, but I don't know, Jim. I'm just not sold on a Hurricanes team. Jim Larinaga, they did beat Duke last week by 2. But you look at some of the teams they've played, They got past. They're winning a lot of close games. They beat Clemson by 5. They beat Fordham by 6. They beat NC State and Wake Forest by 8. They beat Syracuse by 1. They beat Duke by 2. They beat Florida Atlantic by 2. They beat North Texas by 6. And now their last game, they lost by 1 to Florida State on the road. I know they're at home, but I mean, you're dealing with a Tar Heels team, and if there's one thing that you've seen in North Carolina over the last several years, it's the fact that they like to beat people up on the boards. And that's something Miami doesn't necessarily have a ton of size to work with. Meanwhile, North Carolina, they got a bunch of guys that are 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", that rotate around. Especially with getting Brady Manick as the grad transfer from Oklahoma, that was a big boost. Dawson Garcia came over from Marquette. You got Armando Bacot in there. And you're talking about some good size, and I think they'll beat up Miami inside and get the win. Then we got Toledo. Todd Kowalczyk, he's done a really good job with the Rockets. A lot of good teams in the Mid-American Conference that get overlooked because it's usually a one-bid league, unfortunately, because you've seen some success from teams coming out of that conference in recent years in the NCAA tournament. You look at Buffalo. You look at Ohio last year. They knocked out Virginia in the opening round. But, a lot of teams get overlooked there, and it's too bad. But I like them over Ball State. On the ice, like we said, Vancouver. I like them over Nashville. The Predators have lost 3 in a row. They're coming off a 5-3 loss to St. Louis last night. Vancouver's played well under Bruce Boudreau. You have to think they can get the win there. Dallas, I put the puck line here because if any of you have looked at the money line on that game between the Stars and the Canadians, it's prohibitive to say the least. The Stars going off as a minus 350 favorite. It'll be Braden Holtby. Apparently, he's going to be back out of the COVID protocols for the Stars tonight against Samuel Montembeault, who's 1-6-3 with a 378 goals against Montreal. Not a pretty number. The Canadians 2-15-4 on the road. We talked about taking Arizona against them yesterday. The Coyotes won 5-2. Don't expect much more from Montreal here. Carolina and Boston, I look for it to go over 5.5. The Hurricanes, they're number 1 in the league in goals against, but a lot of teams, we've seen a lot more scoring since the pause as teams try to get back to full speed and everything. And with Tuukka Rask and Frederick Henderson in goal for these teams, I think it's going to end up being a 4-2 type of game, 4-3, and go over the mark. Florida on the road over Calgary. I just don't have any faith in the Flames. They can't put any kind of consistent play together, and the Flames are better on the road than they are at home. On the hardwood, like we said, Golden State minus 15.5 over Detroit. The Pistons are bad. I don't need to say anything else. And Minnesota and the Knicks under 213. The Knicks, in the second game of back-to-backs this season, have seen an average total of 200.6 points per game. They're 27th in scoring offense. They're missing some key pieces. Look for that to fall short of the mark. James, I hope that you listened yesterday when we talked about Murray State after you asked us about it. We told you they would cover against Eastern Illinois. Final score of that one, Murray State 72, Eastern Illinois 46. So they covered the 22 points. I know it seemed prohibitive at the time. Hopefully you looked into it and it panned out for you. If you didn't, then hey, that's not a bad thing either because you wouldn't have lost it. Because you can't lose, you don't bet. Those two teams will meet again Thursday.
Any other questions before we move on?
No, I think it's a quiet day today. I think everybody's basking in the glory of that horrible Monday night playoff game.
Right. They either got it right or they didn't. So we'll find that out. Well, look, tomorrow, remember Tuesdays are our only day that we do 1 o'clock.
Wednesday, Jim. Wednesdays.
Today's Tuesday. For those of you who have a calendar and know what the day is, it is Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. And Wednesday, it seems to happen when COVID, right? You're here when you do, every day is like, it's like Groundhog Day. Yeah. So anyway, tomorrow, which is Wednesday, thank you, Chris, for letting me know. And the over-under on that being Wednesday is pretty much 100%. It is going to be Wednesday tomorrow. That's the day we do 1 o'clock. Okay, so 1 o'clock tomorrow. Come on out a little early. On your way out, smash that button. Since James didn't tell you to do it today, I'll tell you. hit the button that you like us, hit the button to subscribe, and by all means, come on by tomorrow and have some fun with us. We always appreciate. Bring your questions. We always enjoy the questions. All right. So, for my buddy Chris King, and for the rest of us, by the way, Scott and Scott with Back to the Windows coming up in about an hour at 3:00 Eastern Time. So by all means, check them out.
Nathan hit a 7-teamer yesterday, Jim, so that worked out well for him.
All right, Nathan. All right, buddy. So, and I hope you used Caesar Sportsbook, so that way you got extra cash.
Yeah, can't go wrong with extra money.
That's right, bud. All right. Well, until tomorrow, 1:00. Again, coming up at 3:00, we got Scott and Scott with, of course,
special guest. Nobody.
Well, special guests, they're special. They don't need special guests. So anyway, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, 1:00 special time on Wednesdays. Until then, Jim Williams for Chris King saying have a nice afternoon.